Testing. I'm going to do 2 intros for you because you said you wanted to put this up on Mandalorian as well.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to do just a quick intro for Mandalorian, and then you can cut out chit chat for Mandalorian and put this intro in front of it. If that makes sense. If there even is much chit chat this episode. Hello and welcome back to the More Than Mandalorian show, where we talk about more Mando after the show and much more than Mando now, as that era is being fleshed out on Disney+. Remember, we are a property of the Nerdosphere, and we are here to talk all things Star Wars on mostly Disney+, but when other Star Wars stuff finally comes out, you best believe we're going to be talking about it. And tonight, we're going to play a bit of catch-up and discuss episodes 4, 5, and 6, I believe. Is that correct, Corbin?
It sounds about right.
All right. Well, we'll jump right into it. Cut. Okay. Now. Hello and welcome to the Nerdosphere. I'm one of your hosts, Clayton, joined as always by the biggest palate this side of the Mississippi, Corbin.
What's up, boy?
I should have called you Lizard Man Bosk.
Don't tease me. I mean, that would just make me sad because we haven't seen Bosk yet. But Bosk is my boy. I've got a Bosk statue.
It's only 1 episode left, so I don't think we're going to see him.
Don't think so.
If our intro teaser is anything to be any indication to what we're going to be talking about, we are going to be discussing The Mandalorian. We are 6 episodes into...
You did? No, you've done exactly what I've done. The past 2 weeks, I have talked about this show, and I've been like talking about, man, the episode of The Mandalorian was so great. It's Book of Boba Fett. It's not The Mandalorian. You've been doing exactly what I've been doing. Every time I'm like, I cannot wait for the next Mandalorian. And Morgan's like, Book of Boba Fett, babe. Book of Boba Fett.
We are going to be discussing the Book of Boba Fett. We are 6 episodes deep out of 7, and we're going to discuss the show, what has worked, what hasn't, our thoughts on what's going to happen in the finale. I can't imagine that anything like too flippin' crazy is going to happen in the finale, but you never know. And where we think this era that's being explored by Disney+, where it stands and what we expect from it and that kind of stuff. If you want to hear in-depth discussion on the episodes, you can check out our Star Wars specific podcast called the More Than Mando Show. It is a property of the Nerdosphere. Me and Corbin actually do it for the most part. It was kind of cycling between you and Tim, and sometimes both of you during season 1 of The Mandalorian. Yep. But now that we've brought it back with Book of Boba Fett, it's just been me and you so far. And that show will follow basically everything Star Wars. We're just going to keep it going and not limit it to just an after show to The Mandalorian, hence the slight name change to More Than Mando Show.
Yes.
Yes. But if you didn't know, this is the Nerdosphere, where a podcast that discusses everything from the big screen to the small screen and anything in between, whether it be movies, shows, video games, books, music. If you can nerd out about it, we're going to talk about it. And again, tonight we're going to be talking about Book of Boba Fett. If you like what we do, scroll on down and give us a rating. We greatly appreciate it. This helps get us in front of brand new listeners. You can rate us on an Apple device by scrolling down to the bottom. And if you're on Spotify, they have recently introduced rating. So we would greatly appreciate ratings over on Spotify, as we need to build up the ratings there since it's brand new. If you really like what we do, go over to patreon.com/thenerdosphere, where you can learn how to support the show for as little as $1 a month. You can get exclusive access to a supplemental podcast called Nerd Tea. You can get our podcasts ad-free, which is meaning more and more as the podcast continues to grow and pull in more advertisers. And you also get a bunch of other sweet perks as the tiers go up. So be sure to go over to patreon.com the Notosphere to check out those exclusives. So, before we get into it, Corbin and I live in Missouri. Corbin more in the St. Louis area, and I live south, more southeast. And we got bombarded by snow and ice.
Snowpocalypse, my dude.
I had to. I'm not ever one to shy away from just driving in the snow. I would be, one of only a couple managers that would drive to work when I was a manager at Walmart. And I had to leave work early, close down the office, go home on Wednesday, and it basically snowed from like Wednesday at 11 where I'm at until like right now. It's been nonstop. It's not stopped.
It's been crazy, and it's not going to. I mean, it's
not going to stop.
I was going to say technically it's stopped. It's more like taking a breather, and then it's going to continue for the rest of the day. And if you are checking the Mo.app, app, it is they haven't done anything to the roads.
Everything is covered.
Yeah. I get 2 days off a week as is. So these past 2 days, I've just been calling my 2 days. However, if the roads don't look much better tomorrow, I will
work from home. Well, you said you left your laptop at work though, right? So
I did. So maybe I'll go on like a quick adventure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess time will tell what Corbin does. I'll keep you all posted.
I mean, if you can make it to the office to get your laptop, you can make it to the office to work.
Yeah. But with the snow day means a reignited passion of destiny.
Yes. We have really we tend to do this, or maybe it's more me, but I feel like I can include you in this. We always tend to get the destiny itch like at the end of something.
Yes.
So like not only are we at the end of a season of content, where things wrap up and disappear for new things to come in, we're like 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away from the season ending. We are also on the precipice of a giant new yearly release DLC. So like we've jumped in, gotten the itch. We're loving what's happening in the current season. We are binging through months of content in like a couple days, all for it all to just like go away and reset basically come February 22nd.
This could be why we end up remaining consistent with Destiny, because we finished that 52-step quest today, and I immediately felt deflated. And I was like, what
do we do now?
What now? Because Destiny very much is a weekly thing. Like there's a couple things you do. So you play it for like a couple days and then you put it down. And so when the new content drops, we're going to be back to that time schedule. And we're going to be like, what do we do?
To be honest, though,
now?
I'm kind of, and I said this while we were playing, but the structure of this season's content, I think I really enjoyed the way they delivered like the story and the narrative and the quest line.
Yeah.
And I think unlike other seasons, I would have enjoyed, the weekly time release of this quest. And I say that to say, I think I will look forward where I'm at with gaming. I think I'm going to look forward to not having to feel like I need to play all the time.
That's fair. Yeah, I remember one of my old clanmates was asking me if I was going to be able to play Destiny with him and stuff again. And I flat out said, I can pretty confidently say that never again in my life will I be able to play Destiny the way that I used to. It was every day. It was every day for hours.
Every day for hours, yeah.
That's just not gonna happen for me. What we do need to do though is get Tim in on Destiny, because I said this off cast, but taking Tim into a raid would be hilarious content.
It would be fantastic content, and
our other hosts played.
Our other hosts, come to find out, Jesse used to play Destiny, is getting back into it as we are in preparation for the Witch Queen release on February 22nd. Christian, the other AU Anime Ultra host, is a avid Destiny player, so we've got ourselves a nice little team if we can get Tim to play at least long enough to get some content.
Exactly. And to better speak to the ebbs and flows of Destiny, longtime listener of the show, George, texted me on Facebook Messenger with a screenshot of you and I playing earlier today. He goes, "It's been many moons since I've seen you on." And I said, the prophecy of old tells an ancient cycle, a wheel that spins out content. When expansions drop to lay, a Corbin comes to play.
Oh gosh, that's pretty clever.
And that is my relationship with Destiny.
Yeah, but it's true. But yeah, to our main point here is I am looking forward to not having to like play it all the time. So I hope that the way this season's content came out is how they continue. Because like I'm in the middle of Horizon, trying to play through that before its sequel comes out. I've got other games that I want to play, you know. Like I'm trying
that the Sifu game actually looks fun. Sifu. I don't know if you've seen. Yeah, it's a game coming out, and it's like it's a kung fu game. And it's like every time you like quote unquote die, you come back older. Yeah. So like you were defeated and you go back and train, you come back and you age.
Yeah. I did see like a kind of teaser for it.
Yeah. It's like a little bit stylistic. It's kind of fun.
You know? Kind of a almost a rogue like game.
Yeah. So I mean I think that looks kind of fun. But yeah,
but I'm trying to reignite my love for single player games. So I've done that recently with Kana and with Horizon and with Spider-Man. So I want to keep that going. And I have the Destiny itch, but I don't want to give up my newly found love for single player games again. So
definitely. And not to derail the conversation too much, but with the Sony acquisition and the explicit discussions from the Sony team saying that they are eager to take the Destiny IP outside the video game realm, i.e. expansions into movies and or shows, could I finally get my long desired wish of a Destiny anime?
Maybe.
That's all I want.
Or at least a high quality animated show. A la
Arcane.
Arcane or Vox Machina, something like that.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, I don't think we talked about this on the cast. Corbin is referencing the fact that Sony has purchased Bungie, the developer publisher behind the creation of the original Halo, before they bought themselves back out and left Microsoft, and then they created Destiny and have been basically doing nothing but Destiny this whole time, but have recently grown. They're working on a brand new IP, and they're going to continue to grow and become more of a Rockstar kind of developer. Well, you know, obviously that's still two different size things, but that's where they're going. They're going to have multiple IPs, and
the only alarming thing that I saw from the reports is that with Bungie's help and advice from their extensive knowledge in the realm of live service, Sony expects to launch 10 live service games by 2026, which, if I'm looking at my calendar correctly, that is just 4 years.
So here's what I think about that, and I don't think you need to necessarily worry. I think they have games in the pipeline already that they want to be live service, or you know, have them supported better as a live service. And this acquisition helps them with that. They can now use Bungie's expertise to ensure that these games that are already in development will succeed as live service games. Excuse me.
Also, Sony has also said that the acquisition of Bungie has been something that has been in the works for some time and is not a quote retaliation to the Activision acquisition.
Yeah, insiders say the talks have been going on for about 6 months. So yeah, if there is a retaliation to the Activision buyout by Microsoft, it will come later.
Exactly.
So, but I don't think that we'll see that. You know, like we said in our last podcast about this stuff, Sony's style is more, I like this studio, and I'm gonna, buy it, and they're selective about their studios. They just don't go around buying up studios. They build a relationship with the studio. They like the content, the quality content that a studio is putting out. They're going to say, hey, why don't we just make this official and we'll pull you in.
And they welcome them into the family.
And that's what they've done here with Bungie. It's a little bit different because Bungie's obviously not making a PlayStation exclusive yet. I would bet money that the new IP is going to be exclusive. But Me Destiny too. Will not be. But again, I think they've got several games in the pipeline that they would like to push. It's the game's longevity and make it into a live service similar to something like Destiny, and they need somebody to ensure that it survives, unlike every other game that's tried to mimic Destiny.
Yeah, so definitely.
All right, well, it's enough chit chat about that stuff. I think let's go ahead and jump right into the Book of Boba Fett.
Yes.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I've got this winter cough, boy. So Book of Boba Fett, so far we've got 6 episodes. The first 4 episodes focused solely on Boba Fett, and it told not only the story picking up at the end of Mandalorian Season 2 from Boba Fett going to Jabba's old palace and killing Bib Fortuna and taking his spot, but also in the form of flashbacks has been showing how he got out of the Sarlacc pit and his journey to when he met Mando in Season 2. So it's telling 2 different storylines. And yeah, the first 3 episodes, super basic. I was kind of just okay by it. I know, Corbin, you've had some a little bit more of a negative take, I think, on it.
I just don't think they know what they've wanted this show to be.
Yeah.
And I think that your slip up at the beginning of this conversation and these past 2 episodes are proof to that fact that Book of Boba Fett has a boba problem.
It does have a boba problem, and we haven't given the warning yet. If you haven't caught up with Book of Boba Fett, be wary because we will probably mention some spoilers. So just keep that in mind if you're going to continue. If you don't want anything spoiled, be sure to pause it, go catch up on the show, and then come back and then give us a listen. But yeah, the first 4 episodes, we get some interesting characters. We get Black Krrsantan introduced into live action. And he eventually joins Boba Fett. We get the cool introduction of Boba's Rancor, and we get a little bit more information about the Rancor, about how they're actually like super affectionate animals and how they can be highly trained and they're highly intelligent. They basically imprint on their owner as soon as they see them, and it's like a lifelong bond, giving more depth and context to when the Rancor is killed in Return of the Jedi. The handler's like super upset and crying.
Just another thing in these past couple of episodes that made me think Luke Skywalker is a douche.
Yeah. Our whole perspective of Luke is slowly changing. But yeah, we get a lot of cool Easter eggs. But ultimately, up until episode 5, the show does suffer, like you said, Corbin, from a Boba Fett problem. And I think Tamara Morrison is actually like way more in tune to the character than you would think, because he himself has said, I feel like I'm speaking too much in the show. He jokes about how when Favreau was off the set and doing something else, like in LA, he told the assistant director, like, can we move some of these dialogues to somebody else because I'm talking too much? Like tried to go around Favreau. And I think that may be the perfect point. I think if they had moved a lot of Boba's dialogue, because he talks a lot,
he does.
Help me with her name. I'm blanking.
Fennec?
Yeah, Fennec. If they had moved her to Fennec Chan, and like she was his voice, and he just kind of stood back and was like stoic and menacing, and only said a couple, to the point lines like he's been up until this point, I think we would have a very different show. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on the first 4 episodes of Book of Boba Fett?
It just that there's no consistency. It's all over the place. I feel like Boba has been nerfed since last time we saw him. When he comes to help Din, he is the one that kind of saves the day, and he fucking kicks ass.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's like in this role, and he's just like I said, he's been nerfed, and it's a little frustrating because Robert Rodriguez had a lot to do in this show in particular. Like after he directed the episodes with Boba, he went to Favreau and was like, I want in on this. And so he's directed a few of the episodes of Book of Boba Fett, and his episodes in Book of Boba Fett have been the weakest episodes compared to the episodes that he directed in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And I think part of the problem is that I mentioned this in the Mando show, but he for whatever reason slipped too far into his history directing Spy Kids than he did with his history of directing like Machete and From Dusk Till Dawn and like really cool action movies. Whereas we get just a bunch of like weird camp, and it just, when you do that, the style feels all over the place. The things like the Mod Doctor and stuff, like I understand these elements exist in Star Wars, but when they've been presented, they feel kind of cyberpunkish. Doesn't feel like it's part of the DNA. And without skipping ahead too much, in the later episodes, we see new things, and it all feels Star Wars-y. But whatever's happening on Tatooine through the lens of this Boba Fett show, it just feels so off. It just doesn't, it's not quite there. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. So episode 4 of the Book of Boba Fett, we see him teaming up with Fennec in mostly of a flashback episode. They go and retrieve his ship, and they then go searching for his armor, and they have a confrontation with the Sarlacc pit. And that sequence was very cool. The Sarlacc pit actually tries to eat Slave One, and
yes,
they drop the sonic bomb down and, and kill it.
And I had mentioned in the Mando show, the Sarlacc pit is back to the original design. It's not the case. The beak is there. Just, the beak is dormant.
It comes out, which is a little bit more realistic. And I think from interviews with George Lucas, he wasn't able to make the Sarlacc pit look exactly like he wanted, which take that with a grain of salt, because he went back and like changed all this stuff.
Yeah.
He's definitely an artist that believes his art can be changed. Like it is his to change as much as he wants, rather than I've made this thing and now it's,
out there,
the world's.
Yeah.
So take that for what it was, but yeah, the beak is still there, but it hides down in there, so the Sarlacc pit actually does look kind of normal.
Yeah.
And then we come back to present day. We get another kind of cool Easter egg between Black Chrysanthemum and the Trandoshians, the Bossk species. They hate each other. Trandoshians hunt Wookiees. We see Trandoshians with Wookiee pelts in the Clone Wars, and I think in Rebels, but definitely in Clone Wars. And in the episode 1, I think, of even Book of Boba Fett, the Trandoshan clan, when they're bringing their tribute to Boba, they have a Wookiee pelt, and they're giving him a Wookiee pelt. So there's a long history of hate, and we see Black Chrysanthemum like get super annoyed at these gambling Trandoshians. They get into a fight, and he rips off one of their arms. Very cool. And then Boba Fett officially recruits him, which we knew that was coming. We knew he was coming back. And then
that's also cool context you've laid out there for the audience, because I think that for a lot of casual viewers, that was just Chrysanthemum going off on those people. But there is racial tension between those species.
Definitely, yeah. And he's already like a standoffish guy, Chrysanthemum is lifelong, gladiator, survived the gladiator as a slave, and then rough and tough bounty hunter. So he's already like not afraid to get into a scuffle, and then you throw annoying Trandoshians into it, and he's gonna rip somebody's arm off.
Right.
So he gets officially recruited by Boba Fett, which is super cool. And then the episode kind of ends with them having a meeting with the other like crime families in the area. He's trying to recruit them to help with the Pikes who are coming in, trying to take over Tatooine to run their spice. They don't want anything to do with it, but they do agree to a truce. So they agree to step back and let Boba, have his fight with the Pikes, and whoever ends up winning is whoever ends up winning. And then we get the little cliffhanger that Fennec leaves us with at the end of episode 4, which is money can buy muscle. And then boom, the entire series is flipped on its head and becomes The Mandalorian season 2.5, because episode 5 hits and it is all about Din. Every bit of it is Din. There's no Tatooine. There's no Boba. Oh, there is Tatooine. I lied.
At the end. But see, but it's funny you say that, though, but that goes to show how dense these 2 episodes are.
There's no Mos Espa is what I should say, because there is Mos Eisley.
Yeah. But it's amazing how much story happens in these 2 episodes, where I felt like these 45 minutes felt almost longer because there's just so much happening.
Well, they are a little bit longer.
Whereas Book of Boba Fett, it's like, oh, nothing's happening here.
Chapter 5 is 52 minutes. Chapter 6 is 48 minutes. And that's a little bit longer than most of the episodes. Chapter 2 was 53, and the rest are under 50. But yeah, we just get him, the whole tone is different, man. That's like, the whole tone is different.
It feels like Star Wars.
And part of the reason is, one, we've had 2 seasons to fall in love with Din, so obviously him coming back is like a huge deal for the fans. And 2, Bryce Dallas Howard directed episode 5. And this episode may be the best piece of Star Wars content yet. And I'm including movies with that when I say that.
Get this woman a movie.
Yeah, get this woman a movie or a series. She has an eye for Star Wars, and this episode is gorgeous.
Yes.
But we get a ton of more Mandalorian lore. The whole point to this situation with Mando, when we come across him in episode 5, is he's finally looking for the armorer and his old conclave, where they've relocated, and they've relocated to this sick looking space station that actually looks a lot like the Halo from the Halo series. A lot of people think it's a nod to Halo. There are there is at least one other space station that's a ring like that in Star Wars, but it's like a fake planet ring. It orbits a planet, so it's a ring around a planet, and we see that in Clone Wars, I think. So it's not unheard of in the world of Star Wars, but it is very, very similar in the way it looks, that it's just a ring in deep space to Halo. But he finds the armorer, and he's got the Darksaber, which we see in all its glory in the opening sequence, and the armorer's teaching him how to use it. And we find out that he's like conflicted in his head, so the energy is off, because the Darksaber, at least we learn in Rebels, the lightsaber and the crystal in particular feeds off of the energy of the wielder. So like, you have to have peace of mind, you have to be at peace with yourself, basically, or the weight of the saber will be heavier. Because we see this with Sabine Wren when she's being trained by Kanan. She says, man, this is a lot heavier than I would have thought. And Kanan describes how, you're not just wielding a blade, you're wielding, yourself, your energy, impacts the energy of the crystal. And so there's more to just sword forms when it comes to lightsabers.
Right. I think it's also important to know that like peace of yourself also doesn't mean good, because Darth Maul wielded that bad boy like a motherfucker. So it's also important to know, because I feel like a lot of times that like peace with yourself is always used in the sense of like meditation and self like love and like all that stuff.
Great point.
But in this instance, it literally just means that balance and acceptance with yourself, and you can be as evil as possible. Like it doesn't matter.
Exactly. And we know, because he's conflicted about Grogu. He's missing his boy, and also he took off his helmet. He broke his own creed. He's got all these things that's going on inside him. So the sword is just getting heavier and heavier, and he's having trouble wielding it. We see Priz Vizsla, I think was his name, and he is of the Vizsla clan, which one of his kin was the leader of Death Watch that we see in Clone Wars. And Vizsla, of course, is the clan where the Jedi Mandalorian who made the Darksaber, he's a Vizsla. He challenges Din. He wants his family's sword back, and he loses handily. Like, Din just like wipes the floor with him. He struggles a little bit because the Darksaber is heavy, but then when he loses the Darksaber, he just like kicks this dude's butt.
Oh yeah.
So, but that's where we the armorer does her whole thing where she like makes them all recite the creed, which is, I've never removed my helmet. Nobody's ever removed my helmet forcibly. And Din has to admit that he removed his helmet, and he is now given a new quest, which is to go to this underground fountain on Mandalore, which he thinks is an impossible quest because Mandalore has literally been razed to the ground.
Yeah.
And we get that cool sequence, man, where the TIE bombers fly across Mandalore and destroy everything, and then we get the Imperial.
There's a nice like a T2 reference as well, seeing like the battle droids walk across the battlefield like they were like T99s, you know?
Yeah, and just shooting everything. It was very, very cool.
Anytime we get to shift perspective and see the Empire as actually menacing and not through the eyes of like the heroes of Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, which is one of the reasons why I liked Rogue One, is that the Empire actually was a threat. They weren't just these laughable, I always miss buffoons. And so having scenes like that can help recontextualize like, like the Empire's evil and like they had a presence. It's dope as fuck.
Yeah. And they actually, the armorer does mention in conversation, I took a mental note of this, talking about how the Empire, for all of its vastness and all of its cruelty, like only lasted 30 years. And she's comparing it to Mandalorians who have been around for, their culture's been around for 10,000 years.
Right.
But I just thought it was kind of cool that in world that somebody has finally said aloud and acknowledged the Empire only was around for 30 years, because that's something that we talk about and that Star Wars people in general just kind of have to live with, is this convoluted short timeline that George gave us with the introduction of the prequels.
Yes.
Like all of this stuff happens in a span of 30 years. And it's just something that we kind of have to live with as far as fans go. So it's nice to hear a character in the world mention that it's only been around for 30 years. But then Din, he's given this new quest. In order to reclaim his status as a Mandalorian, he has to make this quest trip to Mandalore. But first, he needs a ship because, as we all remember, Razor Crest was destroyed.
R.I.P.
And we find him back on Tatooine at Mos Eisley, in the friendly ship yard of what's her face. I can't remember her name. The droid lady. And we just get them building a ship, and the ship is a Naboo starfighter that they heavily modify. And we get a lot of cool Easter eggs with him flying through Baker's Canyon, and we see spots from episode 1 and episode 4. And then at the very, very end, Fennec shows up and says, I need your help. Boba needs your help. Din says, I'm there for you, but I gotta go visit my friend first. And then we get to episode 6, where he goes to see Grogu, man.
I was like, I was live texting when I was watching this episode, and I was like, a lesser show. No, any show 3-4 years ago would have either dropped this storyline, we didn't actually see anything happen, and it was just like, I went there and did it, let's go do this thing for Boba, or he would have arrived at the planet and maybe Grogu was there but no one else, because they didn't want to have to deal with any sort of rights, money, whatever it would have been. Yeah. But no, Clayton, we were thrown into a toy box. We get it all, baby.
We get it all. And we knew going in that when Dave Filoni is listed as director and writer, that you're going to get some stuff. you're going to get Dave Filoni things, whether it be clones, whether it be Ahsoka, whether it be, anything from Bad Batch, from Clone Wars Rebels, all of his stuff is free game. And like you said, we get it all. We get Ahsoka. We get Luke training Grogu. We get Cad Bane, the infamous bounty hunter, who's even more deadly than Boba Fett. We just get all of these things. We get the return of Timothy Olyphant Marshall. We get so much in this episode, and it is glorious.
And Luke looks so good.
You know why?
This is the post hiring of the deepfake guy.
Yep. After his surprise reveal in the finale of The Mandalorian Season 2, a famous deepfake YouTuber fixed, quote unquote, the CGI for Luke Skywalker in that scene, and Disney hired the man. And let me tell you, it's the best I think we've seen to date. You can't hardly tell that it's CGI. Like the only thing that gives it away.
Sometimes when he turns his head.
His head. Yep. But I was gonna say, you're exactly right. But I was gonna say the hair, because the hair is not Mark Hamill's hair. It's close.
It's the actor's hair, or the wig, whatever they're doing.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's cut or wigged to look like Luke's, but you can tell it's not Luke's. So that's the only real thing that takes you out of it. It's night and day. It looks great.
I was sitting in that room with Morgan, and she was like, I think we're witnessing history. Like and it feels like that. We're watching this evolution happen with technology to the point where, it was one thing when it was happening in movies, but we have this happening in a show. Mm-hmm. And it's so good that I'm like, we can have a Luke Skywalker show. Like Sebastian Stan being cast as Luke Skywalker is a great casting, because it's like making do. Yeah. It's making do with the best that we have, right? But in this instance, we can use technology. Mark Hamill can voice Luke. Like we can have our cake and eat it too. Like it's so cool.
It's glorious. So a few things with this. Din comes to this planet to talk to Grogu. He unfortunately doesn't get to talk to him. Ahsoka talks him out of it because he's just starting out his training as a Jedi, and as we know, the Jedi don't like to encourage attachments because of the negative feelings when associated with losing those attachments. So
which is just so fucking bullshit.
It is, and it is a little surprising that Luke feels that way.
We talked about this off cast, and I was just so frustrated because and bear in mind, I don't have the attachment to the EU that you do. In which case, Luke is a proponent of attachments and things can be okay, and like the old way of the Jedi is not the true way that you have to be. This is just me being a fan of watching the Jedi be dumb. Darth Maul realizing that you can be dark and not be a fucking Sith. It's just a religion. Like you can wield the Force how you want. And then seeing how Luke is able to utilize the powers of being a Jedi, and you realize that his love is what allowed him to not only save Anakin, but like protect and keep Leia and Han and everyone else alive. Like his love and his attachment is what saved the day and the galaxy. So for him to sit there and make Grogu have to choose between Mandalorian or the Jedi way when he could have both is fucking bullshit. I was like, you're being a prick, Luke, and you're being a fucking hypocrite.
Yeah.
Maybe they're trying to do this. Maybe they want me to start not liking Luke because Last Jedi is a piss poor example of Luke, and maybe they're trying to make it all one character.
I think that there is a very prominent rumor and belief in the fan base that Filoni and Favreau are starting a story thread that will lead to decanonizing the sequel trilogy. And the thought behind this is in Rebels, we find out that there is a sort of a void space that you can access as a Force user that has portals to different points in time. And Ezra, using this, actually saves Ahsoka, and that's why she's still alive, and kind of changes the future. So people think that in that moment, Star Wars splits into two timelines. One where Ahsoka dies and is not there to influence anything else and leads to the sequel trilogy. And then one where Ahsoka lives and continues with Rebels and now with the live action shows, and will lead to a different timeline that doesn't reach the sequel trilogies. And I thought this was interesting and pretty cool, and I started getting on board with maybe that is what they're gonna do when they introduce Luke at the end of Mandalorian season 2, and he takes Grogu. But now that they're making Luke a dick, I'm kind of thinking that they're just going to use it to lay groundwork to show how Luke became the Luke we see in Last Jedi.
Yeah, he just unfortunately over idealizes the old Jedi way instead of like actually embracing the lessons that he himself has learned and carrying that through to the next generation of Jedi.
That's exactly right. So, another thing that we learn in this episode, obviously, is that Luke and Ahsoka do know each other.
The old friend of the family line got me.
Yeah, she tells Luke she's an old friend of the family, or she tells Mando, and then tells Luke that he reminds her of his father, which is great.
Yeah.
So we do kind of see that, at least for a little bit, they do meet and converse, and Luke probably learns a little bit more about the Jedi and his father, and maybe that's what motivates him to I need to rebuild the Jedi as they were and try to teach, what they knew and rebuild. Who knows?
Well, I'm honestly with Ahsoka's
with her beliefs, you'd think that
with her beliefs. Well, I was a little shocked that she was cockblocking Din the way that she was, because like Ahsoka is not a Jedi in the sense of the Jedi way either. She's a Jedi in the sense that Maul is a Sith and that he's a dark side wielder. He doesn't believe in the Sith religion, and Ahsoka was the same way. So it was strange to see her get in the way of Din seeing Grogu, and I was crying. Like I was very emotional. I was like, he's right there. Just let him see him.
Yeah, I think so. The thing with Ahsoka is that she was betrayed by the Jedi Order. It was at near the end when they were getting very corrupt and being directed by Palpatine and his machinations and all that, and she was framed, and the Jedi didn't have her back. They just immediately went to punish her, and so she left when she proved her innocence and then left. She said, you guys didn't have my back, this is not the Jedi way, and left. So I don't think that it's that she doesn't believe in the Jedi way. It's just that she saw what the Jedi had become.
Yeah.
They were generals instead of peacekeepers. They were quick to judge. They didn't necessarily try to find the good in others. It was just, win the war. So I guess I agree that it is, and I even said it is a little strange that she would be so adamant about the training methods, but ultimately I think she does believe in the Jedi Code. She just didn't believe in the Jedi at the time.
Yeah.
So
but it was,
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, so I found that to be very emotional. Seeing Grogu train was a lot of fun. I do think that Luke brings up a really interesting point for Grogu to at least think about, at least in that a short while for him is a lifetime for others. And that is important to know, that for the rest of Mando's life, Grogu probably is not going to get much older or get much more expressive than we have right now, because of just the way his species ages. I'll also say that these two episodes, especially the one prior to this one, brought some ease to my mind. Now, I have talked explicitly about how I think Book of Boba Fett has a Boba Fett problem, but I've often wondered, what will the Mandalorian be without Grogu? Because the entire show up to this point has been that relationship and getting Grogu to wherever he needs to be.
Well,
The episode before
episode
this
5 proved that you don't need Grogu to make a good
that's my
episode.
so that's the point I was going to make. Is the episode before this completely shows that Din as a character is completely interesting and strong enough to carry a show without the plot of Grogu, and there's plenty of other things happening in Star Wars that is not Grogu that is just as fascinating. So
Yes.
I'm very excited to see where they're going with Mandalorian, and I'm very excited that they are showing us all these meat and potatoes so early, because it tells us, informs us, the viewer, moving forward, that we don't have to wait like seasons for like a payoff. Like they are very, very, very willing to give it to you, like pretty quickly.
Yes.
When you really think about this compared to old TV, that we are already seeing Luke train Grogu, that probably would have been like 2 more seasons down the road.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and we already get some of this in that. When Din is turned away by Ahsoka, he leaves a gift that the armorer turned the Beskar spear into chainmail for Grogu. And Corbin kind of alluded to this already, but Luke ends up giving Grogu a choice. You can either choose the gift from Din and go back with Din and, embrace relationships and forego the Jedi way, and then he pulls this bombshell out. He has Yoda's lightsaber and says, "This belonged to my old master. Choose this, and I'll train you, and you can be my first student, and we'll rebuild the Jedi."
Yeah,
and that's the cliffhanger for Grogu that we're left on. We don't know what he chose. Back on Tatooine, Din goes to recruit the Marshal for Boba's benefit. Well, really Tatooine's benefit, because the Pikes are taking over Tatooine. And we get a snippet of the Marshal being a flipping badass in a quick draw, shooting up some Pikes and dumping out their spice. And the Marshal's a little hesitant, but then decides that he's going to talk to his town people and maybe try to convince them to help run the Pikes off of Tatooine. And we get a classic Western man walking in from the distance. And the episode title, I think, is "A Stranger Walks In from the Desert" or something like that.
Yeah.
And it is revealed that it is Cad Bane, which is a infamous bounty hunter. He is very, very deadly. A quick draw Western vibe and aesthetic. And he confronts the Marshal, and it's revealed that he's working for the Pikes. He talks bad about Boba, saying, he used to work for the Empire. He's not a good person. Just stay out of it, and we'll pay, triple or double, whatever he says, that Boba's paying you, just to stay out of it. The Marshal, of course, Timothy Olyphant plays that role so well. It's being a little sassy and mouthy, but you can tell in his face that he knows this man is a problem, that he doesn't want to fight him. And then we get his little deputy pulling and drawing on Cad Bane and causes a firefight. And Cad Bane hits Timothy Olyphant. We believe he's alive. I believe, didn't you say subtitles for the win?
The subtitles for the win show the background murmurs of the crowd as they say something is wrong with the Marshal. We have to get him inside right away. So he's alive.
And if you freeze frame and slow down when the laser bolt hit him, it does look like it hit him in the shoulder. So we think Timothy Olyphant is okay, and he's going to be back. But the poor deputy gets it 3 or 4 times in the chest. That man's dead.
Yeah. And it's funny when he was walking up, and it finally clicked that what I was seeing in the heat waves was a hat and the blue chin. I was like, I go, oh no. And Morgan was like, what? And I said, either the Marshal's going to die or the deputy is for sure going to die. And she was like, why? And I was like, because that's Cad Bane. And she was like, who is that? And I was like, it's Cad Bane. It's Cad Bane.
I was watching this episode at work. I had it playing in the background as usual. I usually try to play it first thing in the morning when I don't have a whole lot of customers and stuff going on, so I can hopefully get through it without interruption. Luckily, I did. because the snow was coming. So I didn't have any problems. But I was saying out loud, I had my hands on my head, and I said, "No, Filoni," because as soon as I saw him, I thought for sure Timothy was going to die. I was like, because Cad Bane ain't going to die. He ain't going to show up for a cameo and then die. I was like,
no.
I was screaming, "No, Filoni. No." Don't do it, because I didn't want Timmy to die.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. As soon as the deputy wouldn't listen and go back in, I was like, well, you're for sure going to die. Now we just need to find out if Tim dies. So, and that's basically where we're left. We're left with the cliffhanger of Grogu and Luke. And then we're left with cliffhanger of Cad Bane is on the scene. And the marshal has not only been shot, but his town has effectively, maybe not effectively, but maybe effectively put out of the fight.
I think that this altercation of Cad Bane is going to rally them to actually want to.
I could definitely
they care a great deal about the marshal.
Yeah, I could definitely see that going that way for sure.
So I'm very interested in all of this because Ahsoka leaves. She doesn't stay with Luke. She doesn't. And we already know, we're getting an Ahsoka show. So it's very interesting to see that her show is completely away from Luke and Grogu.
And Luke asks if he's going to see her again, and she says, "I don't know." And she just leaves.
Yes.
She's very mysterious, this Ahsoka.
She's very mysterious. Very mysterious. And there is so many great comedic beats in this episode as well, like with the droids building the temple, and they all of a sudden like just start building a bench. Yeah, and R2D2 turns off, and he's like, "How long do I have to wait here?"
Yeah.
This is also the second episode that we've seen Den call a droid like little buddy and stuff. So it's just cool to see like the evolution this character has had.
Oh yeah, it's weird to think that he used to just hate droids, and now he's not only okay with them, but like kind of playful with them.
Yeah. So I'm very excited to see how the finale shakes up.
Comedic beats real quick. Sorry.
Yeah.
When hopefully you caught this. When Luke is walking with Grogu through the forest, he's picking him up.
He's picking him up
with the force and moving him a little bit because his little leg gait is too small to keep up.
Yeah, I did that. That so was cute. Super cute. Yeah, so I just I'm excited for this last episode. I'm excited for at this point. They have gotten a lot of my trust as far as all the content they're going to be giving us, as far as Ahsoka, Kenobi, and everything.
Yeah.
We had always wondered if the original plan was to not have a Mandalorian season 3 and Book of Boba Fett was just going to take over. I now kind of wish in hindsight they did not announce the Mandalorian season 3, because when the episode title hits like Return of the Mandalorian, like that would have been way cooler.
The hype would have been huge.
Would have been way huger.
I mean, it was already huge, but imagine if we didn't know there was going to be a season 3.
One thing I really respect, I want to make sure I communicate this before we take this out. The one thing I really respect about the Star Wars shows so far that I feel like Feige could actually learn from is the importance of having to watch each show. So when we're watching the Marvel shows, you don't really have to watch any of them to understand what's going on in the movies and stuff. However, if you were someone who is like, I'm going to wait for the Mandalorian season 3, I don't really care about Boba Fett, you can't do that. You have to watch Boba Fett to understand how the story is progressing. And so I really enjoy this concept of we have all of these characters in separate stories, but there is this main story that everyone is orbiting, and it's being pushed in everyone's individual show. And so if you want to be a part of this, you have to watch it all.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought it up, because the Star Wars shows that Favreau is creating on Disney Plus and Filoni's creating on Disney Plus, that it's more like one show, even though they have a different title and different season counts. It is truly one story, and I really think this is going to continue in Ahsoka, and we know that Bo-Katan's got her own show. And I think the Republic Commando one got scrapped.
That one got scrapped.
I don't think we're getting that at all. But I think anything outside of Mando is still going to be pushing this overall story that has Din and Grogu at the center of it. So even when we go to Ahsoka, which we assume is going to be them looking for Ezra, I can only imagine that it's going to somehow wrap back and either include Din and Grogu in some way, or have to do with them and what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, overall, these 2 episodes prove that the series that the shows are gonna be good. I think the main problem in the beginning of this series was they don't know what to do exactly with Boba Fett, and it's just not translating well.
Yeah, and I think it's because of a lot of things that make Mando cool are the things that we either liked or we projected onto Boba as we were playing with his action figures as kids. And exactly. He had his 3 lines of dialogue in 2 movies.
Yeah. He takes off his helmet too much. He talks too much. So
yeah, you got to pull that back. These last episodes just show that when Favreau and Filoni are feeling flexible, I guess, it's just perfect. Like when the story is being told through Din's eyes, it seems like there is a freedom that they have for some reason. Mm-hmm. But it does make Filoni's episode makes me more excited about his Ahsoka show.
Yes.
Yes. Because up until this point, it's been Favreau's vision, where Filoni being this mentor to Favreau, and being there. But Filoni is really enticing me as a fan in this live action adaptation. I think Ahsoka is probably going to be a very dense show when it comes to Star Wars lore, and I'm excited for that.
I completely agree. Yeah, because we're gonna get the knowledge and storytelling ability of Filoni, but condensed. So like, think about how good Clone Wars is, but you got to watch 6 seasons, 7 seasons. But imagine if you took that story but distilled it down to a season or 2. Like, I cannot wait. It's going to be so good.
100%. So bring it on, baby.
Yep, for sure. We thought this one was going to be a little bit quicker, but we dove right into it. So we appreciate you all listening. Again, this is the Nerdosphere. We would appreciate a rating if you like what we do. If you really love what we do, go over to patreon.com/the Nerdosphere, where you can find out how to support the show for as little as $1 a month. We also appreciate your kind words and you spreading the word to your friends and family. We know if you like our content, you probably know somebody else who does as well. Until next time, we'll see you. Goodbye.
Toodaloo.
Okay, now I'm going to do an out for Mando.
Hang on. Okay.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of More Than Mando Show. We will be with you next week for the finale of Book of Boba Fett, and we will discuss our reaction and our hope for the series going forward. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.